Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you may be today. Welcome to our session on personal branding. So the majority of people are working from home, and how can you enhance your online, personal and company brand to stand out from the crowd? Today, we are joined by an amazing panel who are going to discuss and tell you from their own experience how you can become a master in personal branding. So hopefully by the end of the session with us today, you will learn actionable tips that you can actually apply immediately to your personal branding quest, how to leverage social media, how you can understand how personal branding can create future opportunities, and lots of other fun bits and bobs. So like I said, we have a star-studded panel with us today. We have Natasha Lyle, who's managing partner at Expocast. We have Lorena Vasquez, marketing and channel manager at the Siemon company. And we have Kim Goetze, who is a freelance event manager. So I've just got a few housekeeping rules before we start. We have a Q&A box that you can probably see just there. What you've got to do is make sure you use it over the next 45 minutes to ask us any questions that you may have on personal branding. Don't be shy. This session is here to give you guys some tips. So make sure any questions you have, you put them in the box. Now, we do have a dedicated question and answer session at 1:45. So after 45 minutes of the main session, where we will address the majority of your questions. However, if a question is really relevant to what we're talking about in that moment, we'll throw it in so one of our panelists can answer then and there. But please do use that to your advantage. And anything you have, throw it in there. If you have any questions after the event, you can find any of the panelists on LinkedIn. So please do not hesitate to reach out to them and get in touch with any following questions. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about our panelists before we start. We're going to start with Kim. Hello, Kim. As the event prof shuffler, Kim is bringing back the human touch to the social media world of hospitality and events. Having previously worked with European destinations on promoting their business events through content marketing, she is currently a freelance events manager on both virtual and hybrid events. A fun fact about Kim, she once ate a live maggot whilst visiting the Outback in Australia. I wonder if that was part of her role with European destinations. We will find out shortly. Next, we have lovely Natasha. So Natasha Lyle is the co-founder of Expocast, who are a global events recruitment consultancy. She has 15 years experience in recruitment. Her passion for events started as an event management student at university, and she has worked with some of the most highly respected candidates and leaders in the events industry. She's an avid vlogger and LinkedIn influencer, and she has used the power of personal branding and social media to launch virtual events such as the Career Roadmap series, the Big Fat Recruitment Debate, and Event Profs with Talent to successfully raise awareness and credibility of her startup company, Expocast, which was born the first week of lockdown. Not the best timing, but we'll probably have a chat about that at some point. Fact about Natasha, the King of Bhutan once gave her personal permission to fish in his local lake. Lovely fact. Thanks for joining us, Natasha. And finally, we have Lorena. Lorena is an experienced marketing professional and specialist with an MBA. She's an expert in implementing under-budget control policies, as well as marketing and advertising accounts management with the control or areas like communication, advertising and public relations. Lorena has worked in creating value messages for clients, reaffirming the importance of long-term investment, and has skills in planning and developing strategic projects, negotiation, innovation, creativity, and teamwork. Thank you, Lorena. And a quick fact about Lorena, she has partied with Depeche Mode, which is lovely. What a cool group we've got with us today. And finally, just to finish off, hello, everybody. My name is Chloe. I am the owner of Asia Events. We are exhibition sales specialists. And I am head of sales at Giant Health, which is a virtual event for the health tech community. I have a degree in French and Portuguese and have been in the events industry for over 10 years, spanning first event management, similar to Natasha, and then operations, then marketing and promotions, and have finally found myself settled in the world of commercial communication and customer-centric event sales, working with the majority of the top 20 global exhibition organisers and some incredible independent events. Fact about me is that I can say perfect. We look forward to having you at our next event in 5 languages, which has become very handy. So now you've met all of the panel today. Looking forward to the session. And without further ado, let us move on to the key topic today, the first question I'm going to ask, and Kim, this is coming to you, so get ready. What is personal branding to you? What does it mean?
Thank you, Chloe. Let's start off. Personal branding, I think we should look at as our own company. And it doesn't matter if we work for a company, if we work as a freelancer, if we work as a contractor, you know, we are us and we take us wherever we go, whoever we work for, whoever we work with. And within that company, you know, we're the operations manager, we're the marketing manager, we're the sales manager, we're everything, we manage everything, we manage ourselves. And that is the brand we're putting out into the world, and that is the brand other people want to work with.
Great. Thank you, Kim. And Natasha, what would you say? What's personal branding to you?
I think the big thing about personal branding, a really simplified way of looking at it, is that people do by people. And like what Kim says, it doesn't matter if you're an individual or a company. It's about portraying who you are as a person and showing people what your beliefs are, what your values are, what your mission is, you know, or your goals are, whether that be on a personal level or for a business. So it's the way in which you portray those values and how you come across, and it needs to come from within, you know, because that's you. That's why it's personal.
Got you. And Lorena, same question for you. What's personal branding mean in your world?
I mean, I'm just going to add that is how you promote yourself, your experience and your skills to the world. And how do you want the world to see you? Because sometimes we want to show something, but the other persons or customers don't see what you want to show. So it's important to promote yourself in the way you want to be watched.
Okay, that's a really good point. Thank you, Lorena. And continuing with you there, Lorena, what is your own experience of personal branding development? So how have you, in your career journey, developed your own personal brand?
I think that you must, in my personal case, is my point of view is I tell a story to the people I interact with my co-workers, with my family, with my friends, with when I travel, is the way I tell the story of Lorena Avila. From that point, I must be coherent with what I want to show in different environments. Sometimes I can tropicalize my behavior, but the idea is to always be in the same line.
Okay, so what you've learned over your development is very much a case of adapt to your audience. So tell the story that is relevant to your audience with your personal brand. Natasha or Kim, have either of you got any stories about your personal branding development over the last few years? Natasha, you go ahead.
Yeah. So I think I came across personal branding sort of by accident, really. So I started uploading videos on LinkedIn to advertise some of the job vacancies I had, and the response was amazing, and I didn't realize that people started to feel like they knew me, and that they were kind of building up this relationship with me, even though I'd never even met them. And that for me was huge. And I'd go to different events and people would come up to me and say, oh, you're LinkedIn lady or whatever, which was amazing. And they would talk to me like they were my friends, or that we had this history. And I just thought that was incredible, because in my videos I was very much me, a bit giggly, a bit fluffy, a bit scatty, and people like that because it's real and it's authentic, and they're the people that you want to work with as well. So, and building up that relationship with people by uploading videos was huge. So I was building this brand. I was showing people who I was without even realizing it. And then when we launched Expocast, you mentioned earlier, it was in the first week of lockdown. We launched the business. So Expocast, we specialize in recruitment for the events industry. But we launched the business, went into lockdown, and then we went into meltdown because we were just like, this is awful timing to launch a new business. Like, oh my God, what are we going to do? So we just thought, put sales to one side. People don't want to hear us selling right now. Not in the typical hardcore sort of, previous business development way. So what we've done was we just focused on being present and engaging, and really working on our brand. And when I say the brand, showcasing our values and our mission and our morals as well. So we just worked online, and we just really kind of engaged with as many people as possible. And before you know it, the company's brand and presence had risen, at a huge pace, without us picking up the phone and making one sales call. And I think that's the really powerful thing about personal branding.
Yeah, that all makes sense. And it's actually quite ironic because for those that don't know, Natasha does post a lot of videos, and that's actually how we met, because I saw a lot of videos that Natasha had posted. And then one day we just ended up talking about these videos and have since been sort of colleagues and peers within the industry. So it obviously does work. There is a case study as an example there. Kim, following up from what Natasha said there about how when the pandemic approached and she had to change her strategy in terms of personal branding, have you found that there's been a difference and a development in not only how people personally brand themselves, but also in the way they do it and in how much of it is done compared to pre-COVID and now that we're sort of 7-8 months into a pandemic? Is there a difference?
I think definitely, because all of a sudden everyone is online. Even the people who went online before, now they're there, now they're being seen. And what Natasha said there about authenticity, I think it is more accepted now because we now all understand, someone has a barking dog, someone has a handyman in, someone has a screaming child at home. We all had to deal with those things. And, it is okay now. People have shown their washing hanging up. You don't want to know what it looks like on the other side of the screen. It looks very different to this nice blue wall in the plant. So I think it's given the opportunity for everyone to understand that, the back of house and the craziness is okay to be shown as well. And, it doesn't make you less professional if you say, you know what, today the house is a mess, but I sat down with my laptop here and I got shit done. And, it just gave people the opportunity to give a little bit more of a glimpse into their actual life.
Yeah.
And have more of a life-work blend instead of having the work life and the personal life.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I mean, work-life integration is definitely something that we've seen increase rapidly since the start of lockdown. It's also interesting that you mentioned now that during or post or amongst the pandemic that people are starting to show the more human side in their professional world, because I have noticed that a lot as well. And I guess it's very much a case of now that we are all searching for that human interaction and engagement, that then actually professionally having that layer of humility and humanity makes you more approachable as a business person. And I think we can all say, if you think somebody's real, you're much more likely to approach them either through business or to ask professional advice. And I think having that extra layer now is really beneficial to the commercial market. Lorena, going on to you and your idea of sort of pre-COVID-19 and the world now, have you seen a big difference in the importance of personal branding?
I think, for example, with the tone of the voice, you can show and explain yourself, because you just have one shot to communicate your values to the customers and people that are presenting in a meeting. Before, you had a lunch, you had a breakfast, you have a business meal, so you have a lot of interactions with the customers to sell your ideas or a project or a business. But now all the people are so busy with webinars, with webcam meetings, with phone calls. So sometimes you just have one shot, and the tone of the voice is very, very important in order to sell yourself. So
Totally
just take
sense.
one shot and take advantage of that.
So the first impression now is a lot more important than it used to be because people aren't getting the opportunity to have that second or third or fourth impression. Totally agree. Thank you, Lorena. I suppose this moves us on to the next main point that I think will be really interesting for people to discuss and understand. And I'm going to go first to you, Natasha, because I think you're in a relatively unique situation where you have launched a brand. You did this year. You've got your professional branding, but you've also got your personal branding. So what would we say is the difference between personal branding and business branding? And do they always meet in the middle? And do they have to align with each other?
I'm a big believer that, you know, as I mentioned earlier, people buy people. So when I'm selling or, you know, trying to build up a relationship with somebody, I need them to see the real me, because we're going to be working together for the foreseeable future. And so if they don't like what they see now, it's not going to work in 2, 3, 4 months time. And I think that goes the same for an individual as well. So we do encourage people who are looking for work at the moment to really work on their personal branding. And sometimes they're a little bit scared to really open up and be themselves. And I get why, because do you remember back in the day, we were always trained to mirror people, and that's how you build relationships. You know, if they talk really posh, you suddenly start talking really posh because you're trying to make it relative to them, aren't you? You're trying to build, but I just don't think that's the proper way of moving forward. And for individuals who are looking for work at the moment, they need to be them, they need to be real, so that they are attracting the right type of employer. So that when they get their next role and opportunity, that's more likely to be, you know, a career rather than an interim or a temporary job. So for me, there is definite crossover. Having said that, even I sometimes get really worried about what posts I put online, because there is that line. So today, for example, I posted, I was talking about this event, and I just happened to mention about the fact that I've got 2 yapping dogs, an incontinent cat, and two crazy children. And you know, I paused for a moment. I thought, oh, is this turning into a Facebook post? Because that's the worry, isn't it? That it becomes too personal. But actually, how many other professionals and business owners and, you know, are sitting there in their house right now with cats, with dogs, with children? So I think you can be clever with your personal branding. You need to think about who your audience is and who you're trying to attract. And so, you know, that's what I do. I try and think about things that are going to be relative and interesting to my audience. That's not saying I'm making stuff up. It's me being me and authentic, but it's making it relevant to the type of audience I'm trying to attract.
Okay, so it's about finding that commonality with your audience and sort of using that to your advantage in terms of, look, we have this in common. Let's talk more about things, and kind of with a long-term kind of relationship.
Yeah, I think it's really important that you know who your audience is. So if you're looking for a role, you're looking for potential employers. What sector is that? You know, what roles will they be in? So you can talk and engage and really sort of let your personal branding shine through that engagement. So if you're on Facebook, your audience is very different. You know, it's friends, family. Your language is going to be completely different. So I just think it's really important to know who your audience is, so you can pick and choose which part of your personal branding you want to use at what time.
Okay, that's really interesting. Lorena, I'm going to come over to you on that point. Do you think that there is a risk when you are doing personal branding on a forum like LinkedIn, for an example? Do you think that there could be a risk where you can go too far with your own opinions? Do you think that there is a chance that you can maybe be controversial and it's a little bit too much if you're aligning with a brand as well? What's your opinion on that?
I'm going to the same as say before, is that we must show the same line all the time. I think there is a difference between evolution and change. If you evolution your personal brand, for example, with technology or culture, it is okay. I think that the most important thing is to build trust with the people and the customers. So I think that when you build trust with your customers, you can evolution your personal brand and also evolution your personal brand with the business brand. But people are not going to think, oh my God, what is going on here? I don't understand why yesterday she was like so party and now she's like so serious. I mean, if you always maintain the same line, I think evolution is the key to move with the business.
Okay, so as long as your personal branding aligns with your business goals and you maintain the element of trust and relevance to your audience, then it can't ever be too much. I suppose it's quite an interesting one. I think that a lot of people are worried about being controversial with their own personal brand, particularly on LinkedIn. And in actual fact, they're not being controversial at all. They're just having an opinion on something. And I think it's really important that we can distinguish the difference between having an opinion and being controversial, because they're not the same thing. And actually, everyone needs to have an opinion. And like we've said earlier today, if you have an opinion, it shows that you're a human being, which people really want at the moment. And people are going to be gravitating towards that. Kim, I want to bring this back to you, because obviously you used to work for European destinations and supported them on their social media. And I suppose, did you ever find that you were about to post something, or you had an idea for a post and you had to take a step back and think, maybe this is one step too far, maybe I shouldn't do this?
Not when I was posting just for myself, but if it was a post about a destination, yes, a lot of them are then run through the company and they will get approved. So not everything there can be done. And yes, usually you tone yourself down, but I think it is also very important there to just find the right brand to work with you. And, you know, not every brand works for you and should be your client. And we all know it's very important to learn how to say no. And all those clients, though, saw my profile beforehand, so they knew what I was posting. And yes, some people would have maybe said I'm controversial sometimes, but as you said, I only had an opinion. And we're all okay to post our opinions online. We have done that for generations and generations. And if people won't have strong opinions, there won't be any change. You know, I look at us now and I feel quite proud, because we're an only female panel and it's still so rare, and it shouldn't be. And if we look back that, you know, to the time where women didn't have the vote, and now we're all sitting here, only female entrepreneurs and women in the workforce, and this change only came from people having a strong opinion that others might have seen as controversial, but were only opinions. So it's absolutely okay to put whatever you feel is right for you, as long as you feel happy with it, as long as you can go back and look at it the next day and be like, yeah, I'm fine, I've posted that, then it is absolutely okay to post whatever you feel is right.
I love that, Kim. And you said something so interesting that I've never actually heard somebody verbalize before. And that is, choose a brand or a company that represents what you believe rather than the other way around. And that's so true. I know many people in the events and exhibitions industry in particular, and myself, I used to work for an organization, and it turned out that we didn't have the same objectives. We didn't have the same way of expressing ourselves. And I ended up leaving that company for that reason, because I didn't feel comfortable with expressing who I was and my personal beliefs and my opinions whilst I was representing them. So it's really interesting that you say that, Kim. And also, yes, I love the fact there's an all-women panel today, so I celebrate that as well. So on the same subject of controversial posts, I'm wondering, Natasha, aside from incontinent cats and yappy dogs, has there ever been a post that you have posted out from your personal brand, but on a professional platform like LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram, that you've regretted?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I think the first thing I always think about before I do a post is this of value to someone? And I think that's really important. You know, posting things on LinkedIn about what you've had for breakfast, I personally don't do, and I wouldn't do, and I wouldn't engage on a post about that. Now, if my breakfast had something in it, you know, superfood that gave me brain power for the day ahead, the crazy day ahead, and I felt that sharing that information would be of use to somebody else, or it would be helpful to them, then I think then I would post it. So that's my first piece of my own advice I give myself. I look back at the post and I think, right, is this of value to someone else? Yes. Okay, I'm going to post it. If it's not adding any value whatsoever, I never post it. So I always think about how it's going to be received and what can be done with that post. So first of all, so I've never completely regretted any post that I've done. I guess I have been a bit embarrassed, and that's something to acknowledge and try and get over quite quickly. So with, for example, the video content, you know, I used to spend hours recording videos, and I'd replay them and I'd go, oh my God, does my face really look like that? Do I really sound like that? Why does my lip do that funny thing, you know? And you're really critical of your own work, and you have to get over that. So sometimes I've seen old videos and I look back and I think, oh, that's so cringeworthy. But that's more of my, you know, my own insecurities, I suppose. And so, you know, but then once you realize that people enjoy your content and your posts, you sort of keep doing it. So I've never regretted a post, but I've had that internal battle of getting over the sort of embarrassment, you know, and just building confidence to put posts out there, I guess.
I suppose that's the modern problem, isn't it, of 2020, that everything is online. So once you've put it out there, it's really hard to take it back. And we didn't have that issue 10 years ago when everything was done face to face. No one was recording anything, or at least not as much. So we would never be able to reanalyze the way we speak or how we stand or what we say. So it's a very modern problem to have. And it's interesting you say, Natasha, about making sure you give value. I think this is really pertinent. And this is something that I say to everybody that I coach. Whenever they are writing anything, particularly on LinkedIn, I say, make sure you choose 3 themes that you can align yourself to and be passionate about, that not only interest you, but also interest your audience. If you stick to those 3 themes, be as opinionated as you like, write whatever you want. For example, mine are languages and communication, events and sales. And 99% of the things I post about support those 3 themes and are always variations of the themes, but it means that I have reassurance that what I'm posting is relevant and it's never going to sort of veer too much in one direction. So I'd recommend that to everybody. Lorena, I wanted to come back to you because when we first met on our sort of talk round the event and what we were going to do, you mentioned something that I found really interesting, and that was, can your culture and where you grow up and the region where you live or work predefine your personal branding? And how can you step away from your culture to define yourself based on who you want to be? Because I know we discussed about how you can maybe be prejudged based on your culture in different ways. So how have you competed with that with your personal branding journey?
In my case, I am from Colombia, and sometimes the insight that people in the world have from people from Colombia are not the correct. So you have to deal with competence. In all the world, you have to deal with competence, and you have to move very fast, depending on the market where you work. For example, in events, you have to move very fast, because if you are not trendy, if you don't have the gadgets of technology, for example, apps or online invitations and different trade shows that now are digital, you have to deal with your competitors. And if you don't move and you don't show what are you capable to be, maybe people must judge you because of your culture of the vertical market where you work. So I think that the most important is the confidence. If you are confident in what you are and your behaviors, your values, you can show that to the world. And the world must understand that it doesn't matter the people, the country you born, or the vertical or market you work. You are able to work in marketing, in events, in communications, in all the world, and different vertical markets.
Okay, so as long as you're confident, then you can represent your own personal branding however you like, and it will be effective. Great.
Exactly.
Kim, I mean, you've worked with a range of clients, you've worked with various different countries and continents. Do you have an opinion in terms of personal branding? Does some personal branding work more effectively in some cultures than it might in others? What's your experience been of that?
Yes, I mean, I've worked a little bit in Scandinavia as well, and we all know they're a lot more personal there. So it's a lot easier than here when we are in Britain. So it's been trying to, bring the personal side of Scandinavia into the stuff upper lip. And it is more accepted there. So one of the companies I work with there, they were very forward thinking, and they had completely banned their full sales team and went fully marketing. And this is why they did influencer marketing. So there it was a lot more accepted than it was here in Britain, and still is. So yeah, it was definitely a completely different culture, and it was refreshing to talk to people who actually accepted and saw value in what you're doing, where here it's still a fight. We still have to fight for people to accept that, people who post stuff online can be very influential, and it is hard to measure sometimes, and we totally understand that. But the value is definitely there.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And Natasha, if we look at it from a recruitment perspective, if you had a candidate that you were talking to and they were perhaps applying for roles in various different regions and different countries with different cultures, is there anything that you would adapt or tweak in terms of advice for them to represent themselves personally if they are doing it in different markets?
Yeah, that's a good question. I suppose I do speak so we work internationally. And there are a lot of people who are looking to leave the UK and work abroad and vice versa. And sometimes I do get asked that question a lot. Will my languages be a barrier? How will they look outside the UK? And, sometimes there are problems around sponsorship and visas, which we can't move away from. But if we look at the personal branding, I always do recommend a video. I'm a massive advocate of video because if somebody, not that they should, but if somebody is worried about your accent or whether you can communicate properly, a video is a brilliant demonstration that yes, I absolutely can talk, and my accent isn't an issue. And I think actually there's a little pronunciation thing on LinkedIn now that you can do, which is quite good. So on your LinkedIn profile, just next to your name, there's like a little volume sign, and you can now record your name so that people know how to pronounce your name when they speak to you. But what's quite good, what you can use that for, is that you've actually got 10 seconds on that little recording bit. So you can actually, instead of just saying Natasha, I've said, hi, my name's Natasha, I specialize in recruitment for the events industry, blah blah blah. And so it's a really nice introduction on your LinkedIn page, because it brings it to life. That's a really big thing. It brings it to life, and you've done that short introduction. So I think if you're finding it difficult and you feel like the culture is a barrier and that people are discriminating against you because maybe your name doesn't look typically for that country that you're applying in, then I think a video to get across that you can communicate in that language effectively for that role is a really good way of breaking down that barrier. So I would always recommend a video, or that little message on LinkedIn is a really good idea.
Great, thank you, Natasha. Top tip there, so everyone can go record their own. You do it as well, Kim, or have you got it to do?
I have my name recorded, but that's like Kim.
Yeah.
Know that now.
Nice.
It's a nice recording of it.
Yeah, no, it's a very good tip. It's interesting because from a sales perspective, when I've worked at events of all across the globe, Kazakhstan, South America, North America, Shanghai, and a lot of people have asked me, do you find that your personal branding in terms of the way you communicate with people, even if you're using English as the language of communication, do you find that you have to kind of change or emphasize elements of your personality to achieve more in a sales environment? in those particular countries? And my answer to that is always, actually, once you have broken past the barrier of introductions, all over the world, your personality works. So it's like Lorena said earlier, it's about being confident. So sure, there are little tips that I give to people in terms of how to hand over a business card, or do you shake hands or not? For example, in Russia, you wouldn't shake hands if you never met them. But as soon as that bit's over, you just go back to being your personal brand and who you are. And that seems to have the same result globally. So it's interesting. I think if you know little tips and techniques, once you've broken down that barrier, actually you can be yourself in every culture. And it's about having that confidence.
Can you have different personalities? Because there is surveys saying that you have a different personality in a different language. And I'm a native German, and I definitely do communicate differently in English than I communicate in German.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, now I communicate better in English than in German because I had to do work in German last week, and I was lost for words because I was used to doing it in English.
No, interesting.
So
I suppose
a slight difference.
You might say, is it a personality that's different, or is it just your method of communication? I suppose it's kind of, and I see where you're coming from, because when I'm working in France, I speak a lot less excitedly than I do when I speak in English, just because it's the intonation of the language. And however, my personality is the same. I'll still laugh at the same jokes. I'll still make the same jokes. I'll still make jokes about being from Yorkshire and eating gravy all the time. And that doesn't change no matter where I am. It's just maybe the way you deliver that, I suppose, is maybe the difference. But Kim, I want to stay with you actually, because I have a good question to ask. And it kind of links in actually with a question we've had in. So I'm going to do both at the same time. So the question I was going to have is, Kim, do you think you have to be a social media genius to have a strong personal brand? And that links into a question we've had that has said, how can we make an impact without being good at storytelling? Is there a way to do it without being really good at those things?
Absolutely. I mean, when I started out, so I started my journey out on Twitter. I was forced into it. I didn't want to do it. And later on, like Natasha said, I walked into a room and people were like, "Hi, Kim, I know you from Twitter." And I'm like, "Cool, thank you." So at the beginning, I was just liking things. I was retweeting things. I wasn't putting anything out there myself. So you don't really have to put too much pressure on yourself to, establish yourself. It is engagement. Those social media platforms are there for engagement. They're not just there for you to push out. They are there to build a community. And, I started building an online community. I, like you and Natasha met, I made friends online, and I started working with people I've met online. And it is this community building, and you start doing that by acknowledging other people's posts. So no, you don't have to be the social media wizard to get it done. And as we said earlier, not everything has to be an amazing story. Getting back to the question from the audience, sometimes it is just a little snippet of your life that you want to share. And maybe just afterwards you realize, oh, actually, this now interlinks with this. And then you can combine it, but it doesn't always need to be there from the beginning on. And if you don't feel comfortable sharing your own story, then share other people's stories. You can just share things, you can retweet things, and that can be from brands, that can be from other individuals, that can be from news outlets. You can just share those things. You can share polls, you can share other events to attend, you can share whatever event you are attending. Just sharing that knowledge can be enough, and it doesn't have to be, the perfect reel and the perfect video. And I've only edited one video myself now, and it worked fine. You don't have to be a pro at everything.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, can I add to that? Everything that Kim just said was absolutely spot on. And I think sometimes we make personal branding sound like a really big chore, and that you've constantly got to be writing articles and editing videos. But one of the big things that we've done with Expocast is we assess who our audience is. And for us, a lot of that is people looking for work or potential employers. And when we see a really good piece of content, we always think, oh, everyone else can see that, but actually they can't, because not everyone is connected with the same people that you're connected with. So don't get into that bad habit of thinking everybody already knows this stuff, because they don't. So if you see something that's interesting to you, the likelihood is that's going to be of value and interesting to others. So you can take that content, as Kim just said, and you can reshare it, or you could just mix it up and make it into your own kind of article or your own post. I created like a marketing campaign of, it was very kind of retro speech bubbles, and just every time I saw something that was interesting, I just edited that speech bubble and put, oh, that's interesting, and I just post it out as an image. Every time, again, like what Kim said about an event you go to, do a little review on the event, and not only is that great engagement for the people that are running the event, but the other people that would also want to attend then see you as sort of an information hub. So they will come to you for that information in the future moving forward, and that's how you become an influencer. And you know, a leader in the industry, because you're supporting and helping other individuals with that information.
All makes sense. So I guess the key takeaways from both Kim and Natasha there are: one, engage with people. So not just a case of posting your own stuff, but also two, you don't have to create, you could just curate, and that is enough to establish a personal brand. I have a quick question, Natasha. How many connections do you have to have on LinkedIn to be an influencer? I've always wanted to know this.
Oh, I actually don't know the answer to that, to be honest. I think what I used to just accept every connection that came in, and the goal was to just have as many connections as possible on LinkedIn. I move away from that now, because LinkedIn is very clever at recognizing, you know, who you're engaging with, who those people are engaging with, and on your news feed it becomes very bespoke to the things that you are interested in, hence why you get various different recommendations for people probably within your industry. And I find that quality is better than quantity. I know that's a real cliche, but I do think that, and so yeah, I mean, I have about 8,000 connections on LinkedIn. Are they all relevant? Absolutely not. But I connect with people that I find interesting, that offer me value, and that's not always going to be within my sector. And sometimes what's going on over here for this industry is really interesting, that I can bring that over to this side where my industry sits. So I think as long as the content that your connections are offering you are of use and of value, there's no reason why you shouldn't connect with them. But I really don't know how many you would need to be an influencer. I think even if you are influencing one person in a good, positive way, like, but surely that makes you an influencer. You know, if you're making a difference to one person a day, then that's great, isn't it? So that's how I look at it.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Thank you, Natasha. So we've got 3 minutes until we go to the Q&A session. So I guess I'd like to come to all of you. Lorena first. I want to understand, who do you think does personal branding well? So obviously outside of this circle, in the real world, the professional world, Lorena, who does it well?
I think that Michelle Obama. One important thing is that branding is the story that we talk about, and marketing is the way you tell the story. What makes you attractive? You don't need to be a Victoria's Secret model to be attractive for the people who follow you or who repost what you inform. So I'm going back to what I'm saying to the beginning. The most important is the coherence that you have in order to have engagement with the people. I think Michelle Obama, she has engagement with the girls and with boys in all the world, because she knows how to tell the story, but she really has a good story. And to finish, I just want to add that, for example, thinking a party, marketing is the invitation that you prepare for the party and how many people show up to this party. But branding is how you develop the party, how the party is good, and how the people is going to talk about that party after the party. And if the people returns to another invitation to another party, so you make a real work with branding and with marketing.
Cool. I think we have lost Chloe there for a moment. So I'm just going to continue sharing who I really like. And my person I think who does it really well is Stacy Solomon. She started off as a singer, but now on Instagram, she just created this community. Like, she really created this community feel with everyone. And, you know, she calls out when she's getting like parent shaming, and says, you know, you do you. And she sends out really nice positive messages nearly every morning to everyone, saying like, you just do you. And, you know, if today having a shower is all you can do today, then that's the best you can do. And yeah, the main thing there is that she did that by building a community feeling. And this is so important, especially for events now as well. People say you might have to build the community before you build the event, because then you have the audience already. So I think this is a really important thing to look at. So Natasha, who's yours?
So I actually kept seeing LinkedIn posts from a lady called Naomi Rose. So she is an event.
Well.
Ah, there you go. So she is she's a university student, and she's been doing various internships, and she has really established herself as her own business. I would say she looks like she runs her own business. And I suppose typically she does, because off the back of all of her engagement on social media, she's had so many job opportunities and speaking opportunities, and now I see her on different events, on different panels, and that opportunity has come up because of her engagement online and the way that she has positioned her personal branding. I think the first thing she's done is she's just been real. And the second thing, she's been consistent. And I think that's another really key thing to point out with your personal branding. And actually, there's a question here about, what about if you keep reposting, engaging, but no one engages back? That's really disheartening. And sometimes you just think, oh, what's the point? I give up. But actually, it's consistency, and it's keep going. I think make sure that you're not just reposting other people's posts, as in sharing. Because I don't know about you guys, but when I share a post, I don't get as much engagement as if I would from my own post, and then the organic views off of that. Do you guys get the same?
I think it depends on the post, but yeah, usually it's better to at least put a comment on it. Just put your personal little comment on it. And, it doesn't have to be a lot. It can just be like, oh, I really like this by this and this person. And, oh, this is a great point, So it doesn't have to be an essay on top of it. It can just be, I agree with this, or this is an interesting thought. But it just shows that you're actually engaging with it as well.
I think asking a question is always really good. So if you do just say, oh, this is really interesting, you're not really opening up the opportunity for somebody to respond back to you. But if you raise a question, you're more likely to get somebody to respond. That's from my experience. Hello, Chloe. Welcome back.
Hi, apologies, everyone. Anyone that's in London, you will have also just been hit by the storm that seems to have ransacked the southeast. And my internet just totally cut off as lightning struck. So I apologise. I'm back. Which question have we already asked? Have we moved on to them yet?
Second one.
Great. So, no, don't worry. So have we talked about resharing? Have we talked about that yet? Resharing on LinkedIn.
Exactly. Yes, we just passed that one.
Great. Okay. So somebody has asked, what is the most powerful channel or tool to use to start building personal branding? And I want to add to that, do we think that it's the same tool as you would use for your professional branding or not? Kim, what do you think? What's the most powerful channel or tool for that?
I think it depends what kind of person you are. Are you a visual person? Then it's Instagram. Are you a wordsmith? Then it's Twitter. if you like a combination, I think LinkedIn is great because LinkedIn posts with pictures or videos work well. I don't think there's just one tool out there. It is what works best for you and where you feel the most confident. And I think the main thing is just at the beginning, focus on one. Focus on one. Don't try to do all of them at the same time. It's going to be overwhelming. So pick one and do it well.
Yeah, really good point. And also, are there any tools that people use? Because I know, Natasha, you mentioned that if you've seen a good quote or something interesting, you might take that and pop it into a little marketing asset that you post out. Are there any tools that people can use to help them with the artistic, creative side of personal branding?
I am a massive fan of Canva. Just massive fan. Honestly, I feel like a professional marketer when I'm in my Canva zone, and I can't take credit for it, but because Canva is fantastic, and there is a free version, and there's also a pro version, which I think is like $9.99 a month. But if you haven't got yourself on Canva, you should absolutely do, because you can. In terms of the visual branding that you're creating, you can pick your colors, and then you can be consistent. So when people start seeing your posts online, if there's like a consistent design or theme, people start getting to know that it's you and your post. But I always try and put my personal branding within that branding. So I like mine to be really bright, not saying I'm super intelligent, but bright as in bubbly and fun and just loud. So I try and portray my personality in those colors and themes. So it's not always, you're not always portraying your personal branding in you. It is the tools around you as well. But Canva's brilliant.
Yeah, I use Canva as well, just to support Natasha's notion. And it's funny because the colour and branding has actually been really important for me. I've ended up deciding my professional and personal branding will be yellow. And ever since, every single thing I buy and wear seems to be yellow, inadvertently. Lorena, what about you? Are there any tools that you use to support?
I think that according to the question that how can we have an impact without being a good storytelling, I think that one exercise is to ask to friends and family members five things that they think about you. And the idea is to have the similar words to define you. Because, for example, if you ask that question to 10 people and the 10 people answer different 5 things, you have 50 different answers. So that shows that you are not promoting like a same idea of what you are. So that I think that is a good point to start. And according what people think and what you want to show, you can create an image from you to you, and after that, external, make external. So I think that is a good tip.
That's really interesting you say that, and it's such a good idea, I think. And Natasha, I know you also do LinkedIn coaching as well as me, and I wonder if you get the same thing. People seem really hesitant to use positive adjectives to describe themselves and to represent something positive, which is so funny. So even in somebody's about section on LinkedIn, they might not want to actually talk about the brilliant things they've done and the brilliant experiences that they bring when they work with somebody. So it's a really good point, Lorena, that you actually ask somebody else, because sometimes it's hard for us to do that ourselves. So we've still got 7 minutes if anyone wants to throw any other questions into the Q&A, but I do have another quick one if you guys don't mind. I want everybody to leave this call today with one point or one thing they've learned that really resonates with them. And so I'm going to ask the question. We're going to go to Kim first. What is the one tip, if you could only give somebody one recommendation, achieving a successful personal brand? What would that tip be, Kim?
I think you should always be open to learning things. Always be open. When you're open to learning things, you will try out new things. You will find things you like. Other people will see you as someone who picks up things, who learns new things, who is looking for innovation, who's looking for new technology. So you can't go wrong with that. Just keep on learning.
Great. And Lorena, what would be your one tip to anybody on personal branding?
In my case, as I say, you have to show that you are stronger. Even if you are scared and even if you are not very secure, I mean, you must be prepared, and you must talk about something that you know, but you show it stronger and feel confident that the people is going to see what you think you are.
Okay, so strength, I like that. And Natasha, what would be your one tip to everybody who's watching today?
I think accept that things are scary. This relates both to Kim and Lorena. Like, it's never easy. It's going to be scary. Don't expect it not to be. And so when you're faced with that fear or anxiety, I mean, Chloe, the amount of times I've come to you and said, I don't want to do that because it scares me. And, you know, I know that by pushing myself out of my comfort zone, I gain confidence, and opportunities do open up. So, and let me just go back to video quickly, because I'm a big advocate of that. If you are a little bit nervous, and you know, as Lorena said about portraying yourself as strong and confident, at least with video, you can edit stuff. So,
yes,
you know, I have a terrible habit of going off on a tangent, and I have so much to say. And so when I do my videos, I do my half-an-hour session talking to myself, and then I cut it down to about 60 seconds, pretty much. I get my message across in 60 seconds. So that is a brilliant way of portraying confidence, you know, and gaining that credibility, if you are a little bit nervous about being a visual online.
Yeah, really good point. And just to sort of throw my own opinion into the mix as well, with videos, I do recommend to everyone that does choose to use them, like Natasha said, keeping it to kind of 30 seconds to 60 seconds, but also using a subtitling tool is really key to get that maximum personal branding engagement, because there are a lot of people who either don't want to watch videos or can't be bothered. And so to give them an option of not having to have the volume on loud, but they can also engage with what you're saying and understand the point you're trying to make, it's really beneficial for you to have that subtitling element on there. So
can I add something to that, yes, Chloe? Sorry, just a funny story. About 2, maybe 3 years ago, when I started doing videos online, I didn't even know that you could use an app or an editing software to put subtitles on. So one day, I just thought, how am I going to get, because I watch things without the sound on. So if I do it, I know that everyone else does it. So I wrote it down on a piece of paper. I wrote what I was saying down, and I just held it up like this and pointed. And that was one of the second best responses I've ever had on a video. And I was completely unintentional. It was just me trying to, you know, get up with the tech. And so sometimes just thinking outside the box, being a bit creative, you don't have to be super tech savvy, sometimes that works. So again, don't be afraid to just try something new, and you never know what might come of it.
That's a really good point. Very sort of nostalgic MSN Messenger 2004 vibes there, Natasha. So people probably loved that. We've got a really quick question. I don't think you guys have done this one yet whilst I was away. What if you keep reposting and engaging, but no one engages back? So what would you recommend to somebody who's reaching out on LinkedIn? So just in a quick sort of 30-second summary, we'll go to Kim. What would you recommend for that person?
People will still see it. You know, just because there isn't a like on it, under it, there's no comment, it doesn't matter. People will see it. And maybe if you meet them in person afterwards, they will tell you about it, and it will actually have an impact on them. So don't
sure.
Keep doing.
With reference to, go ahead, Lorena.
I want to add that maybe in LinkedIn, sometimes people don't repost what you write, but you can see how many people
can see it.
So it is what Kim's saying. Maybe the people doesn't have the time, or it was just fast, but take a look of what you are writing or posting. But if people see you, that means that more people is going to see you, and in any moment somebody's going to repost or to share your content.
It's a really good point. Actually, I tell people this quite a lot, because I get this question quite frequently when I do my training, and people say people aren't engaging with me. And I think there's 2 main points there. There's a question of, analyze what you're saying and how you're saying it. And there might be a case of the way that you are communicating with your audience on LinkedIn isn't the way your audience wants to be communicated with. So for example, if you're always posting videos and getting no response, maybe it's time to shift it to a text-based post, or maybe it's time to throw a few photos in or a poll. So constantly adapt and measure how you're doing things and seeing how you can change them. But the second thing is LinkedIn engagement in particular is a marathon, it's not a sprint. So a lot of people say, oh, I've been posting for 2 weeks and nobody's seeing my posts. The LinkedIn algorithm is based on duration of time you've been doing it as well. So you need to put in a good 6 months of engaging and posting and sharing before you're going to see really any engagement return to you. So it's important. Keep at it, because everyone can start the LinkedIn personal brand journey, but not many of us finish it. And so keep going, keep persisting. And on that note, we have 1 minute left. So I just wanted to really quickly say before we head off, thank you so much to everybody who's logged in to join us this rainy afternoon or morning, evening, wherever you are in the world. I want to say a really special thank you to all of our panelists, to Kim, to Natasha, to Lorena. Thank you so much for coming and giving some really brilliant insight that I'm sure loads of people are going to take away from this and be able to implement immediately on their own personal branding strategy. We really hope that you managed to pick up some great tips on to how successfully personally brand yourselves with us today. Again, just to reiterate, if you do want any further conversations with any of the panelists, just reach out via LinkedIn and they'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. Otherwise, we hope you have a great rest of the day, and we look forward to seeing you on another IBTM knowledge session pretty soon. So thank you, everybody, for coming along.
Thanks, girls.
Bye.
Thanks to all the people.
Bye.
Bye-bye.